Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Back in the mid-1950s, French military aviation was in need of a new flyback chronograph. Breguet, among others, delivered. That Type 20, named after the contract that precipitated its creation, became an icon of military aviation, but also of the Breguet brand, as Breguet persisted longer and more notably in the production and maintenance of those watches for the French military than any of the other original suppliers. In the modern era, we've gotten the bigger and bolder Type 21, and the watch you see right here, the 3880 ST, the Breguet Type 22, and from a tech standpoint, this is by far the most interesting since the 1950s original. So, in stainless steel, this model, which launched in 2010 but didn't arrive for purchase until 2012, is 44 millimeters in diameter, 17.7 millimeters thick, 53.6 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, and it has a 23 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We're going to zoom out a little bit so you can see this watch relative to the rest of my arm and my wrist. I could absolutely wear this. It would be big, but you could see that the way the lugs are shaped, it actually mitigates against fit issues. It is a very thick watch, a very thick watch. So you're not going to slide it underneath the cuff. This is not one to wear with dress sleeves. Even a jacket might get hung up. But as you can see, on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it does fit, which is why I'm going to say you need a wrist my size or larger to get the most out of this ergonomically and aesthetically. I'm also going to say, based on the fit finish materials and pedigree, if you're looking at something like an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Chronograph or an Hublot Big Bang Unico, forget them. Go for this. You'll thank me later. Let's talk a little bit about the hardware and the software. The first thing you can see is that we have a very aviation-inspired combination of calfskin and then a contrasting stitch. Now, this is a thickly bolstered strap that conforms to the case, so it traces the curve of the case but also the slope of the lugs, so they're perfectly integrated. We have a strap that is contrasting stitched. You might just think that it's a colorful flourish until you realize that it is actually keyed by the calibration of the chronograph tracks. So this is actually a nod to what the watch does that makes it special. It's distinctive 30-second chronograph, 20 beat per second operation. Now you can also see that the chronograph reset pusher has twin red collars, and this is a flyback chronograph. It's shaped just like the Type 20 and 21, so we have coined case flanks and highly curved, tapered, teardrop lug profiles. What you might miss is that they're actually slightly concave, like a Grubel 4C lug, so they don't just slope down, they actually bow inward. Everything's of high polish with the exception of the circular satination of the bezel. You could see the crown here is a screw-down unit. The watch is 100 meters water resistant. We have a bi-directional aviator-style timing bezel. That is a surprisingly satisfying detent for an aviator's bezel. They usually don't have a terribly pronounced click. This one does. We're going to take a look at the timepiece in the dark because there is a lot to see. You will appreciate that the watch is extensively loomed, including sub-registers, including the 12-hour register, including the 24-hour secondary time zone, including the bezel index. All of that abundantly apparent. The closer you get, the more you realize that the interplay of white and red is a recurring theme. You can see the red varnished chronograph seconds hand, which makes one circuit of the dial every 30 seconds. You can see printing on the dial in red. The inner track, you can see how there are sectors in alternating red and white. That's there to make it easier to read the radial minutes display. So we have a minutes display that runs in traditional Lemania 1350 fashion around the dial, and that is going to be your chronograph minutes display. So it's 60 minutes around the dial, and these little alternating red and white hashes make it easier to read the individual minutes. So instead of conventional chronograph that gives you a 30-minute register, here we have a radial 60-minute register, which is a lot easier to read. We also have a 12-hour register, and then within the 12-hour register, there's a date window with a lovely vintage-inspired font. We have a combination combination of overlapping red and white printing for the numerals, which is a lovely effect, reminiscent of old 1950s and 60s 3D movie graphics. You'd always have the overlapping blue and red, and then you'd put the glasses on and it would create a very basic 3D effect. Well, if you watched those movies without the glasses, they looked a lot like these numerals. Outboard, you can see there's another track, and here you could see it's calibrated from 0 to 30. So every 60 seconds, this chronograph seconds hand makes 2 circuits. In between each second, you will find that there are many little hash marks. Because we have a chronograph that beats at 10 hertz or 20 beats per second, each second sector is broken up substantially so that with many individual hash marks and a high beat rate, you can resolve an interval as small as 1/20th of a second. And those innumerable little hash marks make that possible. You can also see that radially arrayed, there are little red and white numerals, so you know whether you're looking at the first or the second 30-second sweep of the minute by the chronograph seconds hand. Now, the watch is a flyback, reset and restart with a single push of the reset trigger. Retour en vol, that's what that means on the dial. 10 hertz means 20 beats per second, which means 72,000 vibrations per hour, which is twice that of a Zenith El Primero. The watch does have a secondary time zone. You can see there's a 24-hour format time zone. That's your reference, your secondary. And then my local time zone can be changed using a quick set system for the hour hand, and you can see that I can actually drive the date in either direction. How much do you love the serifs on the font used for the date? The timepiece does feature 3 sunken sub-registers, and you can see that the chronograph hours register actually features a polished metal chaptering. There's a flange outboard on which the minutes and the seconds are placed, and you can see because of the 72,000 vibrations per hour, we have an exceptionally smooth sweep to the chronograph seconds hand. Turn it all over, and well, you get some sense of what sits within. We have a movement that is still distantly based on the Lemania 1350, which is an extremely high-grade 1970s era cam lateral clutch chrono. This one has been updated with a free sprung balance that beats away at 20 beats per second. It has a free sprung architecture, 6-position adjustment, an anti-magnetic silicon hairspring, a robust shock resistance because of the free sprung architecture. It is beaten away at 72,000 vibrations per hour, and in order to achieve that, we have a hybrid escapement. The escapement is made of silicon, but if you look very carefully, you can see that the silicon lever, which acts against a DRIE crafted escape wheel, that lever actually has conventional pallet stones. So I believe it operates completely unlubricated, but it still uses pallet stones, and that seems to be common to most of the ultra-high frequency escapements I've seen. I really haven't seen them crafted across multiple brands in pure silicon. They always seem to retain pallet stones. So, for example, the Zenith Dayfi El Primero 21, it has a full silicon escapement for the El Primero side, but the 360,000 vibration per hour side uses a conventional metal escapement with pallet stones, and that's what we have here. We have a silicon escapement to reduce oscillating mass, but we still have conventional pallet stones. Automatic winding, it has a 40-hour power reserve. It has 27 joules. It has the flyback complication, the dual time complication, the 60-minute register, and of course it's nicely decorated. As you can see, there's a combination of anglage, engine turning, satination, and Côte de Genève visible through this minimal display case back. And of course it is a Breguet, so it comes from a brand that will be around forever to service it and provide parts, which is peace of mind when buying something exotic enough that it seems Richard Mille could have conceived it. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.